Hello, 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 and welcome to Scoutcast, brought to you by Fantasy Football Scout. As always, you're joined by me, Andy, FPL Mode, and what a week. Game week 13 is going to go down, do you know what, I'm going to say infamy, but I'm pretty sure these boys are going to say that it's going down for very good reasons. The rank rises we have seen this week, even just by these two boys, but some of the other rank rises I've seen in the millions for people that have been gaining rank this week. What an absolute stellar week for some people, not so much for other people. But we are all on 3 green arrows. We're joined by the ever lovable Nacho and the ever Hibbo. Nacho, how's it going, my man? Welcome, and obviously into the top 100k.
I know, mate. I don't know what to do around this part. I just had a look. 11 green arrows this season. It's been absolutely magnificent. It's going to end, isn't it, at some point? I'm enjoying it right now. And the main thing is, it's 3 green arrows. I'm a team player end of the day. There's no individuals on this pod. It is all about the team. And the fact we've all got 3 green arrows is much more of a delight to me than that of my 54k just putting out there.
Yeah, 54k. I mean, you're going to struggle for green arrows when you're top of FPL after a couple of weeks, mate. But Hibbo, also, massive week for you as well. You were over 1 million overall rank last week. This week, 347k. Hello.
Big success for Free Hit 13. And I think it was the Boomtown Rats that used to sing about not liking Mondays, but it's not the case for us. We love Mondays. we love Free Hit 13. We love Green Arrows. And it's a strange turnaround because we plotted Thursday, Monday. And I think this is our first midweek game week, but Sar's injured. Senesi's suspended. Captaincy's up for grabs. So I think plenty to discuss. And we'll also talk about last week's points too. So
I promised myself before I came on the stream tonight that I was going to just be happy for both of you. Hibbo, you started talking and I just started shaking my head. I don't know why. For some reason, I'm struggling, but I'm going to carry on anyway. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, including our points from last week. We're probably going to be talking about those for a little bit longer than mine. We're going to be talking about the XGI tables. We're going to be talking about the CBIT tables. We're going to be looking at replacements for Ismail Assar because it looks like he is going to be out until AFCON. And then obviously he leaves us for AFCON as well. We're going to be talking about predictions, goal predictions. We've got the com teams. One did well, one didn't do well, but they're both on free hit. And then we've got our bus teams and Q&A at the end as well. So we've got quite a big stream to get through. Now, let's move on to some points because I had 44 points this week and I had about 100k green arrow, which, do you know what? In the grand scheme of things, I'll take, because after Saturday, I was outside of the top 1 million. So Sunday wasn't too bad for me. I had Raya in goal with 3. Virgil van Dijk with 6 points, who, by the way, everybody was saying was a disaster class in transfers last week. He's had 9 points in the last 2 weeks. It's not that bad. Mukiele was 0. I was close between Mukiele and Senesi. And for anybody that's on Twitter, might have seen me and Hibbo having a bit of a discussion about that. Basically, he was 2 DEFCONs away from matching Senesi. Senesi conceded 3. It was basically just the DEFCON that was the difference in the end. O'Reilly got 4 with an assist. Munoz with 1. Semenyo with 1. Could have been so much more. Evan Nielsen, what was he doing? Bruno Fernandes, the worst pick in FPL apparently. 11 points there. I'm going to be quite sarcastic tonight. I can feel it. Sarr with 1. Saka with 5. Mateta with 6. And triple captain Haaland with 6 points. The worst blank I've had in a long time. And it's not like he missed a buttload of chances. He just wasn't very good and wasn't very involved. So 6 points from triple captain Haaland. And this is one for the history books. My first ever triple captain blank. It has never happened to me before. So triple captain blank for Haaland, 6 points. But as I've said, 44 points, 100k green arrow. Do you know what? Facing off against all those free hitters, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. Mateta, Bruno Fernandes, Van Dijk, all coming up good. Could have played Xhaka and got an extra 5 points instead of Mukiele, but I wasn't really fancying that. So, yeah, 44 points. I won't dwell on it for too long, but let me know in the chat if you also triple captain Haaland, because I'm going to start a support group, and if you want to join it, you're more than welcome to. Nacho, on to your points. Here we go. 72 on the free hit. And look at some of these choices. Talk us through it. Including, even on free hit, a lovely little sub.
Lovely sub, honestly. I mean, first and foremost, it's just I'll let Hibbo obviously like talk about the bad luck we suffered on the free hit later on with the Salah situation, but we had some players who did deliver on the free hit, thankfully. So obviously a bit template the free hit because it was all going around Twitter. But end of the day, when you're free hitting and there's only 4 or 5 teams to target, naturally the pool of players is going to be quite small. Ended up going for the double Aston Villa defence with Martinez and Matty Cash, which was great. Wolves are just woeful, really, aren't they? That they are really going to possibly beat this Derby record, which is a sight to behold. O'Reilly with the 4-pointer, Vandenberg with the 2, and then Richards auto subbing in for Mo Salah. Like I said, it's just bad luck. You just can't catch a break sometimes. Rogers with a 3-pointer, Shardy with a 3-pointer, but then, I mean, Foden with a 15-pointer compared to Doku's blank. And we were speaking about going into this game week how, you know, you could flip a coin on which one you want to go to. And that's how always these free hits play out. You never have all of them go mental in one specific team. And thankfully got on the right end there. And then Gakpo with that late goal. He had the assist, of course, but 14 points is just delightful, really. And then, of course, Haaland up top with the captaincy blank. And I think his ownership was over 200%, wasn't it? So for those free hitting, you actually did want your captain to blank, which was a bit of a unusual situation. Sorry, Andy, PTSD. And then Thiago with the 13-pointer, who, to be honest, was being bought by a lot of people anyway, going into game week 13. And as I said, Salah on the bench. I don't actually know if Pivas is a player or not. I just found him at 3.8 and put him in. I've discovered a player in this game week 13 game, which has been quite fun. But all in all, 72 points. Delightful game week.
Delightful game week. Yeah. I'm not going to dwell on it for too long. Hibbo, talk us through yours, mate. 71. Disappointing.
Slightly disappointing. So yeah, I played the free hit and it was a healthy green arrow, obviously. So I think we gave a good account of the pros and cons last week and some balanced opinion on why it was worth playing the free hit and it delivered big. So, but there was also lots of luck involved, obviously. Haaland blanked, Arsenal clean sheet was a bust, so it was a bit of a perfect outcome in terms of how it panned out. So from back to front, Martinez and Cash, so the double clean sheet for Villa, O'Reilly with the assist and 4, Vandenberg with 2, Shaddy and Rogers with 3 each, Han captain with an unlikely 4 times 2, but then it was these boys with a money shot. So Thiago with 2 goals and 3 bonus, Foden with 2 goals, Gakpo with a goal and assist. So 13, 14 and 15 points for them. And I thought, look, I'll give the field a chance. So I decided to play with 10 men. Salah was obviously a no-show, so I got Michaela. He's nil off the bench. So all in all, very happy. Hefty green up to 347k from outside 1 mil. And look, I think you touched on it, Andy, and I'd like to say there was a lot of kind of negativity, I think, on social media about the free hit 13 template and how strong it was. But I think, similar to what Nacho says, it kind of picked itself. You know, we were picking from effectively 4 teams, Man City, Villa, Brentford and Liverpool. It was hardly a deep pull. There was a lot of kind of full outrage. Oh my God, these guys have the same team and this is very dull. But it was a good template, you know, and it obviously smashed it out of the park. So there's this kind of undercurrent, I think, on social media. People that want to watch a world burn, and ultimately, I think this week they have to just cry more.
I mean, Thiago was one that, I mean, I couldn't get to him easily, but I knew he was going to do okay this week. But having both Foden and Gakpo there, getting almost 30 points between you, I think is lovely, especially with their ownership as well. You've just got to sit there and just applaud it and just say, well done. I mean, not that I had anything prepared, but I do have a list written down here of everything that went right for free hitters this week and went wrong for everybody else. So, number one, you know, the Arsenal clean sheet after Chelsea went down to 10 men. That was, you know, it was interesting, the fact that you gave non-free hitters some hope. Haaland triple captain blank. You know, the fact that he blanked, you needed him to blank as well, was really nice for you. Donnarumma conceding, but getting a pen save just for good measure, just in case you went for Donnarumma. Crystal Palace not keeping the clean sheet and not, you know, doing very well against Manchester United, when actually, if you asked a lot of free hitters, it was Crystal Palace they were scared of the most. Foden getting a double when he's basically hasn't done much this season at all. Thiago getting a double, but I think that one's allowed. Gakpo getting an absolute haul. Salah obviously being benched and not playing a minute, so none of you just got a 1-pointer from him. Sarr getting injured in the 40th minute. Dango getting a haul as well, which was interesting. Caicedo, who was very, very highly owned, getting a red card. And Semenyo, who could have absolutely hauled, and I know, Hibbo, you were terrified of not owning this week, could have got a haul if it weren't for Evan Nilsson trying to steal his goal on the back post, and Evan Nilsson also missing an absolute sitter from a Semenyo assist. So, yeah, let's just say that variance was on your side this week, boys, but if there's any two people I would like to have variance go on their side, it's you two. So, yeah, Baz is in the chat saying Andy isn't bitter at all. Not at all. Literally not at all. I've got a weird lemon taste in my mouth right now, but I'm not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. Let's move on to the XGI tables because it is that man, Thiago, who's at the top. This is his table at the moment. He's been top the last 2 weeks, 6.09 XGI over the last 6 game weeks. Be interesting if we could have non-penalty XGI on here as well, because I think that might be a little bit lower if it was. Mateta on 5.55 and Haaland on 5.19. They're the only guys above 5. There is nobody that is over 4 and under 5, but Gakpo, Neto, João Pedro, Foden, Nemecha, and Mbumo are rounding off the top 9 there, all above 3. And then we got Saka, Tavernier, Enzo Fernandez, Welbeck, Salah, and O'Reilly to finish off the 15. Now, I'm not going to lie, it's not often, Nacho, that I bring this table up and it's the person in 15th that I want to talk about first. I can't remember the last time we saw a defender on this list. XGI over the last 6 game weeks for Nico O'Reilly, 2.60, 0.80 XA, 1.80 XG for the last 6 game weeks. I brought him in last week. People that free hitted obviously had him for 1 week, but maybe haven't brought him in. What do you think about O'Reilly? Because we don't normally see these kind of numbers from a defender.
Yeah, 100%. I think we are seeing O'Reilly playing that Vardiol kind of positioning that we saw last season prior. And obviously Vardiol's now gone back to centre-back, but we've kind of got a reincarnation here of Nico O'Reilly. And even on the winner for Phil Foden, I think O'Reilly was literally on the penalty spot in front of the goalkeeper when that goal went in. So he is just getting into some incredible positions. And like you said, the numbers over the last few weeks have been fantastic. And I do think right now with Man City, I don't think until they get Rodri back, they are going to be defensively fantastic. I still think they need Rodri, they need somebody else in that midfield because they still just concede too many cheap goals, and we saw that against Leeds. But with the fixtures coming up, Fulham away, who of course beat Spurs, but who doesn't right now, I think that's an okay fixture. Sunderland at home in game week 15. Obviously, Sunderland right now are playing amazing, but would I still back City to win on the Etihad? Yes. And then they got Palace, West Ham, Forest, Sunderland once again. So I don't actually foresee a lot of clean sheets for Man City personally, but when he's putting up attacking numbers like this, you do kind of want to chase those sort of defenders that have the real high ceiling, but it kind of breaks the mold of what we've been doing in the last 12 game weeks of going for players that have defensive contributions, in which O'Reilly literally gets none. So I really like him as a pick. I don't think he's going to be effective for minutes because Aït-Nouri is basically now focused on the African Cup of Nations, and I think Pep is absolutely locked in on O'Reilly. So I do like him as a pick, but I wouldn't be buying him with the thought of getting clean sheets over this period. I think you really are heavily leaning on attacking returns.
So you're not worried at all with midweek? You would think O'Reilly would play now until Aït-Nouri goes, or do you think Aït-Nouri gets a game?
I personally think he starts just because I think Pep's probably smelling blood right now off the back of that Arsenal draw, and he wants to keep the run going. And I don't think he's got confidence in Aït-Nouri right now. Maybe I might be wrong. People in the chat, let me know if there's any City fans out there. But of course, like any transfer you're making, it could be anybody, like even a Bukayo Saka. From minutes perspective, you are taking a risk on a player. But I think long term as a pick, O'Reilly's minutes are going to be very secure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very surprised that I'm saying this to you, Hibbo, when we're just talking about taking a risk on a player. Salah benched at the weekend, going to AFCON. Is he now being killed as an asset in FPL?
He's gone.
14th on this table.
14th on this table is grand, and I think if you're looking at the immediate fixture, Sunderland at home, I think if Sal's a guaranteed starter, hand on heart, you probably look at him this week and think, because captaincy is slightly open, because Fulham away is still a good fixture for Haaland, but it's not the easiest fixture in the world. And I know we'll touch on it later in the pod, where like Bruno, Saka are maybe putting their hands up this week. all things considered, Salah's best, you would probably say he's very much in the mix as being the top pick this week. And a couple of weeks back, I felt he would have been a good move for people to make given these fixtures. Right now, I think you can have absolutely zero confidence in him. Do you know he dropped out? Does he come back in? Who knows? They got the result. Do you know, maybe Slot sticks to his guns and is starting to look at a Liverpool team kind of transitioning post Salah. Do you know, like his numbers are okay here. Are they 14.1 million numbers? Definitely not. And he has looked jaded. He hasn't looked like the asset that we've seen last season. And I think all things considered, given the complete no-show at the weekend, I don't think anybody can have any faith in him whatsoever at all.
You know, it's such a shame. Obviously, it happens to everybody, doesn't it? But yeah, it seems, especially with AFCON coming up and the price of him, it seems like you can't really go there. I mean, someone that has been absolutely sensational, and obviously you both owned him this week, but Nacho, you had him before that, was Thiago, top of this table, 6.09. We spoke last week about whether he was going to be the perfect second striker, whether he's going to be the perfect third striker, but interestingly, somebody that's kind of started to pop up now and is on penalties and is 1.7 cheaper than Thiago and could be the new perfect third striker is Nemecha at Leeds. Because before the season started, we were talking about Perot. You know, he would be the pen taker. Is he the one we want? Nemecha now, you know, he's starting to kind of stake a claim as maybe being that third striker, isn't he, Nacho?
Ooh, I can't lie. Nemecha has never entered my brain one moment. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about him as a pick, mainly because I don't view Leeds as a team that just have a truly high ceiling, and maybe because I'm picturing Leeds with Dominic Calvert-Lewin being the main threat. But in terms of the actual numbers, like you said, being on this list first and foremost is great. In terms of his actual non-pen XG, he's currently sat at 2.21 over the last 6 game weeks, just for in case anybody wondering when we take away penalties for him. And when I look at the fixtures coming up for Leeds, Chelsea at home, Liverpool at home, Brentford away, Palace at home, I do think if you're in a position right now where, let's say you're using some funds to go up from Ismail Assar and you're downgrading, let's say, a Mateta, if you're scared of his minutes, if you don't want to go all the way down to a dead spot like a Mark Gui, for example, you could actually go for someone like Nemecha, stash him away on your bench, and then, for example, in a particular game week, like game week 17, if Palace are heavily rotating once again due to European football, then he could be a nice pick for your team. So one to consider, but really not a player that I'm kind of scratching to get in my teams, and I don't really see it either in the top transfers that I'm just looking.
Because Thiago's an interesting one, because I think people keep thinking Thiago's cheap, and obviously he's had so many price rises. He's now 6.7 million. He'll be 7 million before we know it. But actually, Hibbo, is this arguably a bad time to buy him, considering the next couple of fixtures he's got?
Thiago, well, just one thing to say about Thiago, I think his non-pen is 2.03. So we can see like he's had a ridiculous amount of penalties. But then maybe there's more penalties in the league. I haven't done any analysis on that at the moment, but penalty tickers are always a good thing to buy. But there's a big difference between his, if you want to call it full fat XG, and his non-pen. But if we're looking at, I think, at the immediate fixture for Brentford, Arsenal away, it's not really a buy. But the 3 after are great. You know, Spurs away. Spurs are in a bad moment. And then they've got Leeds at home, Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, and then Spurs again. So like you could say that ultimately from like game week 15, he probably represents a decent buy. But like we've talked about this in recent weeks, it kind of boils down to team structure. Do you know? And I think lots of us, in terms of the transfers we're going to make this week, loads of us own SAR. We're going to be impacted by that. That's how do we pivot. But one thing in our minds might be when we're making the SAR transfer, do we free up enough funds to bring, say, like Gui dead spot on the Thiago territory? It's harder to do now at 6.7 as opposed to 6. But these numbers are strong, and I think the fixtures from game week 15 are really good.
I think it takes a lot. I think it takes a lot to get from that dead spot up to Thiago now. At 6.7, I don't think it's easy to do. I mean, do you think if you tried to cast your eye forward, Hibbo, and look at what you think teams are going to look like, even maybe after the 5 free transfers, because that's when people can really have a bit of flexibility about moving kind of structures around. Do you think it's going to be, and I know I asked this a little bit last week, do you think it's going to be Haaland, Mateta, Thiago, or do you think it's going to be Haaland, Thiago, dead spot, for instance? Because I'm starting to wonder whether that's the way to go. With the way Crystal Palace are going to have to start resting players, with the amount of fixtures, with Mateta already getting managed a little bit as well, I'm starting to wonder whether Haaland, Thiago, dead spot might be the future.
I think it's a good discussion point. Like, and I think if we're looking at the Palace fixtures in the immediate term, like Burnley and Fulham look okay, but they're both away from home. Then they've got Man City at home, Leeds away, Spurs at home. So they're still okay. Like, if you're going to talk Burnley, Fulham, Leeds, and Spurs, it looks okay from an attacking perspective. But like, I do agree with your sentiments. We're maybe starting to see, and I know leggy is a term that Andy Martin likes to use, but you could say against United, arguably they were. They're starting to catch up with that, like playing Thursday, Sunday, and you can't keep doing that with a squad as thin as what Crystal Palace have. But I think the big thing for Palace is take Sarr out of that team. Do you know, like Sarr is really their main kind of driving light and driving force within that team from an attacking perspective. Like Matera's just the boy in the box that takes very bad penalties at the moment. Like, it's double touch penalty. I think Mitrovic, he got a missed penalty for that, whereas there's been a rule change which basically allowed Matera to retake, which I thought was a wee bit ridiculous. But no, I think your point is valid, and I think if we can watch this week again, and obviously nobody's going to see Matera against Burnley, but those fixtures, if you potentially want to duck down, save a wee bit of money from Matera, it's not the worst move in the world.
I was delighted when he was able to retake it, by the way. I remember owning Mitrovic a couple of years ago, and he double tapped it, didn't he? And I didn't get he didn't get the retake, did he? So, and I can't even remember what it went down as. It does go down as a missed penalty as well, I think, doesn't it?
It went down as a missed penalty in the Mitrovic case, but this was allowed to be retaken. I don't know
It's
at
the
what
new
point
rule,
they've changed the rules. It's a new rule, basically.
Yeah. Let's have a look at some C-bit then, because Nacho, not only are people losing Sarr this week, they're also losing Senesi because he got booked in injury time, which means he's now got his 5th yellow card. I'm not going to lie, and this might be, people may not have thought about this. I'm quite happy he did, actually, because Munoz is also really close to getting suspended as well. So having only Senesi out this week isn't too bad, considering obviously now his suspension will be done, because if both of them were out at the same time, it would be an absolute nightmare. But we're looking at the C-bit table here from the last 6 game weeks, and I just want you to try and think, if you have to replace Senesi, do you replace Senesi as the first one? But the second one is kind of, if you did have to, who would you go for? Because Collins, Steve, and Kanate, and Senesi are the only ones at 67% for DEFCON over the last 6 game weeks. Anderson and Tete are then in 5th and 6th. They're at 60%. And everybody else on the table is at 50%. So that's Totti, Keane, Lacroix, Chris Richards, Twanzebe, Van der Berg, Van Dijk, Walker, and Wan-Bissaka. If you were moving off of Senesi, number one, would you move off of Senesi? And number 2, if you were, who would you be going to, do you think?
Yeah, this is a tough one with Senesi, because once you sell him, I think that's him probably gone from your team, just because of the amount of value that you've built up, and you probably are going to be selling them on. I just don't think with the fixtures coming up long term, there's going to be a moment where you want to bring him back into your team until possibly like game week 24 or something. And just to remind people, obviously he's missing the Everton game at home, but then he's got Chelsea at home, Man United away, a really nice fixture in game week 17 at home against Burnley, but he's got Brentford away, Chelsea away, Arsenal and Spurs, and even Brighton away. So I really do think that selling him is a fine move, firstly. And at his price point right now, with the value that he's accumulated, it's actually quite a nice player to sell from a cash cow and move off into different areas. Now, it really comes down to what kind of manager you want to be, because this is a perfect example of just a guy who is a DEFCON monster, also picked up a few attacking returns. So we spoke about someone like a Nico O'Reilly, the complete opposite sort of player, offers all attacking threat, 0 defensive contributions, whereas other people on this list, like we mentioned, a Collins at Brentford is pretty much all defensive contributions that we discussed. So really it comes down to your risk appetite and what route you want to go down. But I think the first thing you've got to ask yourself is, do you have any Arsenal coverage, and do you have the funds available to get there? If not, because the two of the next 3 fixtures being Brentford at home and Wolves at home, I just don't think you need to overthink it. If you don't have any investment in Arsenal, you go there first and foremost. And then outside of that, then it's all about your risk appetite. O'Reilly at Man City I like, long-term as a pick. But also there are some decent picks like Chow at Newcastle, who
was
obviously
gonna
off the
mention
back of,
him.
You're going to mention him?
I
You're gonna
was.
mention-
Carry on.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, obviously a bit of bandwagon off the back of that brace, but somebody that we need to look at from a Newcastle perspective, because Livramento and Hall coming in, I think that just improves Newcastle as a team in general.
Yeah, what do you think about Shaw as well, Hibbo? Because I was going to bring him up, 2 goals, and as happens with everything in FPL, as soon as somebody scores some goals, people start thinking that he's an option. Is he an option? Was this a bit of a fluke? Or do you think actually with Newcastle, I mean, I think they've kept 1 clean sheet in 6, so it's not looking good defensively, but is he an option?
I think we talked about him a few weeks back, and like my immediate thoughts on him at that point in time were, why at this point in time in the season do we take risk on a cheap defender when there's cheap defenders that have no risk attached? Do you know, like we do have like Senesi, we do have Anderson, we do have Chris Richards, and you can get Andy like a very cheap defender who's good at DEFCON without risking minutes. Now, looking at the Newcastle team, I haven't really bottomed out exactly who their best defence is. Like, you know, at once upon a time Botman was on there, at once upon a time Shar was on there. They're playing like a centre-back pairing, I think, in the past weekend, where it was basically Byrne and Chiao. Is that how we're saying it? Chiao? I thought it was the old, but anyway, that was the centre-back pairing. Now, is that going to be the centre-back pairing long-term? I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't think Byrne's a left-back anymore, and Hall is obviously fit. So I think with Hall fit, he starts at left-back for Newcastle, and I think Trippier is maybe out for a short period of time, but he was only in because Livramento was injured. So you're maybe going to look like at this point in time that's going to settle down into their best team. But again, next few fixtures I think are really good from an attacking point of view for Newcastle. So rather than invest in a defender, I think, you know, Spurs, Burnley, Sunderland, I think people that want to attack away an attacker could be more rewarded. But the jury's out for me a wee bit. Like, he got the goals in the week past, but I do think there's cheap defenders that I'm ultra sure at the minute in terms of their minutes, whereas I'm not entirely on this guy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, we've got so many, depending on who you have in your team, there are so many flags that just emerged in game week 13, and none bigger than Ismail Assar. And the big thing with Ismail Assar is the fact that Glasner's basically come out and said, the ankle's very, very swollen. We're probably not going to have him for a couple of weeks. And in all honesty, we're probably not going to see him playing for us again until after AFCON, which a couple of weeks doesn't sound that much. But when you consider the fact we've got mid-game week, we've got weekend and then weekend again, he's basically going to be missing 3 game weeks and then he's off to AFCON, which if you own Sarr, he's a priority sell now. 6.6 million is what he costs. So who should we be moving to? And that's the big question we got up here. Now, Hibbo made this lovely table for us. This is based on player point projections over the next 6 game weeks. And this is regardless of price, because there are people out there with quite a bit of money in the bank or multiple free transfers. So actually they could be a bit flexible with who they get in. Now, top of this table is Bruno Fernandes at 8.9 million. He gets an awful lot of stick, but he is actually having a quietly very good season. He's projected 33.40 points over the next 6 game weeks. And if you look at Manchester United fixtures, they look very good for quite a while. And remembering also the fact that Mbumo is going to AFCON, it could free up Bruno to obviously come up a little bit more as well. We got Saka in second, and then Palmer, who is back, in third. They're all above 30, and then it's a little bit of a drop down to 27, which is Semenyo. We've got Foden, Szoboszlai, Gakpo and Minter all on this list, with Rice, Odegaard, Casemiro, Bruno G, McAllister, Sade, as someone said earlier, and Cunha as well. Now, Nacho, if we are looking on this list, and I'm going to go with you first in terms of players that are Sarr's price or lower. So we're looking at 6.6. So we're looking at Szoboszlai, we're looking at Minter, we're looking at Casemiro, Bruno G. They seem to be the standout ones. And I'm going to put Anderson in this list as well. Who are your favourites in terms of replacing Sarr if you had to do it?
Yeah, so it would be Casemiro, definitely.
Of course it would.
I can't believe he's on that list, honestly. I'm absolutely shocked. Yeah, so I really like Minter as a pick of Brighton. I think the first thing we need to remember is his minutes are fantastic now. We spoke about this in previous pods, how last season he gets good minutes, then he'll be out the team. He has been a 90-minute man or 80-minute plus for literally the whole season. I don't see that changing anytime soon. And the big thing for me when we're coming into this December period, which is just so hectic for teams, is that there's no European football for Brighton at all. And with the fixtures coming up for them, Villa at home and then West Ham at home in game week 15, Liverpool away in game week 60, yes, that is difficult. I think a lot of people are going to have good teams regardless in game week 16. And whenever I think about Brighton, I always think they do step up in these sort of games. They have that kind of like underdog mentality. Then they got Sunderland at home and West Ham away in game week 19 with Arsenal wedged in between. So I actually really like the fixtures for him. I think, of course, he is offering mainly all attack and returns. He doesn't have that overall game about him like someone like an Anderson, for example, at Nottingham Forest. But if I had to pick one right now, 6.2 million, I do think Minter just edges it because of the Premier League being their only focus over this busy schedule.
Who does he just edge it over? Is it Anderson for you that would be a close second?
So the players on the list right now, I can't really get behind any of them outside of that. So yeah, I think Anderson is the next best consideration. A lot of people talk about Bruno Guimaraes at Newcastle. I don't mind that, but I think Anderson at a cheaper price is one that I think I would have over Bruno. Guimaraes, that is.
Yeah, I did. I asked Az about Minter a little bit and said, because the thing I'm massively worried about with Minter is that he'll miss out midweek. Like, you'll bring him in and he'll miss out because obviously it's so different for a winger in terms of how much work they've got to put in every match, and obviously they can be a bit rested. The problem with Minter is, or well, not the problem, the good thing about Minter is they've got no one else that can play that position in their team, and he's also ridiculously fit as well. So the likelihood is he is going to play every game, like you just said, and he's getting, above 80s, 90s in most games anyway. He's been incredibly good creatively this year. Is it 6 assists, 7 assists he's got already, and 1 goal, which is, pretty good from a winger for Brighton. But Hibbo, it's got to be. They're such different players, aren't they? Between him and Anderson, and I do feel like they are the top two to consider in terms of replacements for Sarr. Anderson has got the security of minutes, but he's a very different player in terms of the fact that this week his XGI maybe wasn't so good, but he got 2 points for DEFCON, 2 points for appearance, got 2 bonus and a 2-0 loss. You're not going to get that from Minter, are you?
You're not going to get it from Minter, and I think the comparison's an interesting one to make, because if we look at Minter over the season, I think earlier I looked and these boys, Anderson did take 1 penalty, but Minter's 4.38 the XGA over the season, whereas Anderson's 3.39. So he's obviously less, and Anderson also has a pen on there, and pens are normally about 0.8 the XG or something along them lines. But price is the interesting one because, we started the season, everybody looked at the DEFCON data from last year and felt that Anderson was going to be the real darling. He was in at 5.5. Now he's dropped, so he's 5.3. I think the fixtures are interesting. So if you look at the next 4, they've got Wolves, Everton and Fulham as away games. 3 away games is a bit tough. But they've also got Spurs at home. The XGA is respectable, but where he kind of comes under his own DEFCON. So in 8 of his 13 games so far this season, he's had DEFCON, so he's missed out 5 times. And in the 5 times he missed out, he had 11 DEFCONs 4 times and 10 DEFCONs once. So he's never been below 10 defensive contributions in a game this season so far. So that gives you a fairly interesting floor. And I think relative to the price that you're going to pay for Anderson at 5.3, if you think he's got a 5-point floor, but he can go potentially a lot higher if he manages to come off with a set piece, because he has a lot of set pieces. He's dominant. I was just looking at it whenever we're on the pod. He's taken 44 corners for us this season, and nobody else comes close. So he's got the dominant share of corners. So if they get a goal, if Murillo scores a header, or if Milinkovic, the chances are the ball's going to be provided by Anderson. So it's that kind of perfect storm that if you get him, he maybe keeps a clean sheet, he gets a DEFCON, and he gets an assist plus bonus. He does have the potential to go big 10-point territory. And dare I say it, he's got the potential to be a wee buddy of money, Bruno Fernandes, if he kept penalties, because he took the penalty against, I'm not sure the team, but Morgan Gibbs-White was off the pitch.
Yeah.
So the penalty came very late in the game. I think Gibbs-White came off in the 87th minute, in whichever game it was, but Anderson scored around the 90th. Does he keep pens? You're going to say the likelihood is that he doesn't, but he's got an element of pen share. So I think that kind of adds under the potential that you're buying for 5.3, and at the minute, he's a front runner for me, I think.
So, yeah, I was just about to ask that. So, who's your choice for 6.6 or less?
Anderson, Manta as a 1-2.
Yeah. And Nacho?
I'd probably have it the other way around. Minter 1 and then Anderson 2
Oh,
just for the
hold on.
upside there.
He's
I like
54k. Can I rethink that?
Yeah, I like it. Well, what if you had a little bit of money in the bank then? So what if you owned Saar and you had, say, 3 mil in the bank that you would be saving up for a rainy day, and that rainy day turns up and all of a sudden you can get a Foden in your team or a Bruno Fernandes in your team. I am seeing an absolute clamour for Foden right now, and Bruno Fernandes, people are finally scared of. People are scared going into this game week without Bruno Fernandes. Apparently, Bruno Fernandes is captainable in this fixture, considering how many points West Ham give up to centre mids, which they did again, obviously, last week. People are clamouring for him. So I'm going to go to Hibbo first this time. If you had a bit of money to spend and you had to replace Saar, who would you be going for?
Exactly how much? 3 million?
I reckon if you could go up to 9 mil.
Bruno Fernandes, absolute no-brainer.
Yeah.
Best asset in the game. And I'm not joking. No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking because like we can look at it. We could. You know, I'm a Bruno fanboy, and I'm not going to joke about this because I keep him in the team, and every week I look at it, and we have different issues. Like we have Saar, we have Senesi, we have these issues that crop up. Number one, you don't get issues with Bruno Fernandes. What you get with Bruno Fernandes is you get pens, you get minutes, you get DEFCON, you get assist potential. He gets 2 assists at the weekend. Like, he has so many avenues to points. But if we looked at his data over the season, and we don't have it here to hand now, I would say Bruno Fernandes is probably underperforming his data. Whereas we're looking at players that on the most part, are overperforming and they're so far ahead. It's as simple as this. If Fernandes had scored the 2 pens he must, he would be far and away the top scoring midfielder in FPL at the moment. But in the free hit week gone past, I think he had something like 12% EO.
Yeah.
He's top mid on the sheet. He's a top midfielder for the next 6 weeks. So if anybody doesn't have him, and you're basically saying you can get under the top midfielder for the next 6-week run, and by the way, he's only owned by, say, 1 in 10 or 1 in 5 teams or less, it's an absolute no-brainer. Do it.
If anybody's ever lucky enough to join a WhatsApp with Hibbo, he doesn't have a profile of him or his family. It's just Bruno Fernandes. It's lovely to see it. He is a proper fanboy. Nacho, do you
in the Premier League?
Do you agree? Do you agree with Hibbo that it's Bruno Fernandes easily? Do you have some love for Foden? You got Gakpo there as well. I've seen a few people saying maybe Cunha's a good shout if he's back. Any of those kind of making you feel a little bit funny?
No, for me,
no,
no, absolutely not. Bruno over Cunha, and I think you just find the million. I think Foden is great, but he just is not comparable to Bruno Fernandes over a 6-game week period. I think he can outscore Bruno in any singular game week, and Gakpo for me is just one of those. Once Ekitike returns, who knows what Slot's going to do? He's willing now to drop Salah. Could he actually be flexible in his selection of that front three?
Yeah. Interesting. Right. Let's have a look at some predictions for this week then, because there are some massive predictions here. We got Arsenal at 70% chance to beat Brentford, which is interesting considering Saliba, I think he's due for scans, and obviously it was Mosquera and Hincapié that started at the weekend. Liverpool, 79% chance of a win against Sunderland with 2.72 goals projected as well. Manchester United, 56% chance against West Ham. Newcastle, 54% chance against Spurs. Spurs really are in a bad spot at the moment, like Hibbo said earlier. Bournemouth, 50% chance against Everton. Now, with it being midweek, Nacho, what would you say is the priority this week? Is it to make sure that you've got your 11 set and you've got a few bench options because there could be rotation? Is it that you've got to try and target? So for instance, Liverpool and Arsenal are the best two here to invest in, but I don't think we've really mentioned any Liverpool and Arsenal players to invest in. So what does this table kind of tell you in terms of, this is telling me which players to look at, and I've got to be mindful of certain players that could be rotated?
Yeah, I think it's like the obvious answer. Try and target players that are minutes picks first and foremost. But we also have to remember that game week 16, we're all getting 5 free transfers.
Yeah.
So it is actually an opportunity for, if you're identifying a player who maybe his minutes have been increased due to an injury in the team, then maybe it is an opportunity to maybe go a little bit rogue for 2 game weeks, knowing that you're going to get 5 free transfers given to you in game week 16. So, yes, the minutes picks are still my answer. I still think they're the guys to go for, but I actually think if anybody wants to roll the dice right now, for example, let's take Cody Gakpo. I've just said I don't really consider him as an option, but, play 90 minutes in game week 13. If we're of the assumption that he is going to start once again, Liverpool fans, let us know in the chat and comment section, but that's a great player in this fixture, for example, to do well based on the numbers that we're seeing on our screen right now. You don't have to own this guy for 6 game weeks. You have him for the 2 game weeks that you want him, and then you ship him out once again. So I love the minutes picks. I think long term that's the play, but we have to consider these 5 free transfers that we're getting in game week 16, and that makes 2 game week punts actually an option for us.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Hibbo, I was just saying there as well, I forgot to mention the away fixtures there. So Palace are at 59%, Man City are at 54%, Chelsea are at 58%. I had 2 questions for you. The first one was Man City, only 1.75 projected goals. There are quite a few teams higher than that, including Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal. Does this feel like a game week we can go against Haaland? 3 blanks in a row?
Very famous Andy Martin meme. It does, and I don't think we're afraid to do it. We've done it in recent weeks. There's a couple of options here. I think Saka, we're looking at the 2.9 for Saka. Gyökeres is potentially going to start that game. I've seen him in, what do you call him, Tommy Gunn. Tommy Gunn has him in the Arsenal predicted team. So there's maybe a doubt there if he comes back in who takes a penalty. But if we're going to say winner stays on, we'll assume it's going to be Saka. I think he's got potential as a captain's shout, but I think you would agree he's still slightly short at a top level. I thought Saka was going to really kick on, and it hasn't really looked that way. But I think the other option is, and you've put him up on the screen here now, is Bruno Fernandes. I think at home to West Ham are coughing up an awful lot of non-paying XG. He's got the pens, he's got the DEFCONs, he's got assist potential, he's got multiple risky points. We like him a lot. He's a wee bit off the beaten track as well because his ownership's quite low. So I think if you're going to take on the Haaland captaincy, it's going to be similar to the week past, where even people that single captained him were hoping that he was going to lose. It's going to be the same. If you back against Haaland this week, you're going to hope that he blanks because he's going to have still about 160, 170% EO. But I do think Fernandes could be the one that if he smashes, he could go close. Salah, Isaac are ranking high here. Isaac's minutes are short. What did he play? 60s at the weekend past.
Yeah.
Salah didn't play. Optimists will say, Salah will come back in. We don't know if he'll come back in. Nobody owns Salah anyway. So it's who's your available options? Could people potentially punt for Matera? Your other argument is there's a build-up of minutes here in the Crystal Palace team. Sarr comes out, they lose that bit of creativity. I don't know. Fulham away isn't terrible.
It's not. I mean, it's interesting there what you were saying about, obviously, Isak, it's always there with Ekitike. I think that's going to go on for quite a while. The interesting thing about Mateta is when Sarr went off, it was Nketiah that replaced him. And whether Nketiah plays in that Sarr role, which means he isn't available to replace Mateta, is quite interesting. Whether that bumps up Mateta's minutes a little bit. But even then, the amount Crystal Palace are playing, you've got to expect Mateta to miss some minutes. But you look down this list, Bruno Fernandes is the only player here, I think, midweek, even if we're just thinking this close, midweek, he's going to play the full 90, isn't he? So if they get a penalty in the 92nd minute, he's on that pitch ready to take it, isn't he? Whereas if you own a Saka, there's every chance that Saka goes off and is rested in 70 minutes and when Yeri comes on or whatever it is, you've got Mateta, he could easily be off the pitch then as well, although like I said, whether Nketiah having to play for Sarr's role kind of changes that. Salah, like you said, we got no idea whether Salah's going to come back in. I expect him to. They're paying him a lot of money to sit on the bench if that's the case. But it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Haaland, though, we still expect him to play pretty much the whole time, don't we? Although they do have Marmoush on the bench.
I think Haaland plays. I think he plays pretty close to 90-odd minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think there's ever really any kind of doubt. I know once upon a time when he joined the league, people were a wee bit unsure about whether he could make a statement. all that stuff's way in the past with Haaland. Like, he is pretty much a minutes monster as well. And I think if we're looking at the 11-5 data here, it's probably saying, play the easy pick this week and play Haaland. He might be third pick, but you couldn't really trust the two above him. Gyökeres in fourth. Can you really trust him if he comes back from an injury this week? Is he going to play 90 minutes? Most certainly not. I think your point about Matera is very good. Saka came off around 60, 65 against Bayern Munich.
No.
Again, his minutes could be clipped if Arsenal go out and score a couple of goals. He's not involved. It could be slightly disappointing for Kjapner. So there is more risk here, I think, than there has been in the previous week where we took a punt against Haaland because he was a bit more down this table.
Yeah.
I think here, like, you're thinking, I really have to take it on. And Fulham, they're not exactly an absolute brilliant team. I do think Haaland can go there, score a goal, score 2 goals, but I'm kind of drawn to Fernandes for the minutes. And output in general.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I think he'd probably be second on my list. I mean, Nacho, talk us through the com teams, because obviously the com teams, they both played free hit this week, I believe. Correct. But it's really interesting seeing the fact they both played free hit with varying fortunes.
Yes, yeah, it is kind of a tale of the Man City midfielders, really. So just a bit of context right now. In terms of the actual league, there is a bit of a gap opening. I'm just going to put it out there.
Oh, don't.
Just going to put it out there. So I won't talk about who's first, but second is actually the new com team. I was storming 74 points to put them second at the table. 2 points behind that is the OG com team. And then we got Hibbo and Andy. I won't talk about the actual scores there in terms of the overall. But in terms of the new com team, 74 points has got the top points of the week in our league. And they went different. They went without Sharda. They went for the Dango pick. We all spoke about how we were a bit worried about Dango's minutes and ended up being the play in the end with that later on goal. Had the situation where Mukiele came in for 0 points for Mo Salah. But hats off to the new com team here with the score. Big score with 74 points and put them in second place. But yeah, like you said, on the flip side, OG com team here went for the free hit, only scored 50 points, but it's just all about missing out on those double-digit returns. Went for the pick of Marlon, and I actually thought that was a really nice pick when we saw the team sheet of him starting up front for Aston Villa, but just a little bit blunt, really, Aston Villa in that game, all in all. Didn't really get the big chances that we were anticipating, and of course went for Doku rather than Foden. The only blessing here was that when Mo Salah missed out, they had Virgil van Dijk come in for the 6 points off their bench, which was nice. But yeah, tale of kind of the free hits here, where all it takes is one or two players that you miss out on. Utara versus Sade, Doku versus Foden, and that is the big swing here. But all in all, league's looking tasty, as it always has for the last few weeks. And I think there is going to be a few SAR sales for both teams, I believe, on what I saw in Game Week 12.
You're 50 points ahead of me, Nacho. 50 points. I don't know. I don't know when it's happened. I don't know what's happened. If I feel like I've blinked, and all of a sudden you're Fabio Borges. I don't know what's happened, but I'm loving the rise for you two. Absolutely loving it. Let's have a look at some bus teams then. So I've got 0.4 in the bank. I've got 1 free transfer. I've got Raya in goal, Van Dijk, O'Reilly, and Munoz. I like the fact I've got O'Reilly. I thought that was the move I made last week. And actually looking at me in my team, I am prepared for him to miss out. I think he is going to miss one game before Aït-Nouri goes to AFCON. But I feel like with my bench, it's okay. I've got Sarr, Semenyo, Bruno Fernandes and Saka, and obviously Sarr will be sold. I've got Haaland captain at the moment as bus captain. I've got Mateta, and I am playing Krupi Jr. this week, most likely. I feel like he's going to get the start, and I feel like at home against Everton, he is a goal scorer. I feel like he could do a little something, so I'm playing him at the moment. I've got Dubravka, Xhaka, Mukiele. Oh, God. Mukiele.
You turned on the Hubble.
I did on the bench, and Senesi, who's obviously suspended, on the bench as well. Would have been a really nice game for him to play home at Everton, but there you go. So at the moment, I am most likely going to be doing Sarr to Minter. I think I like Minter. I like his home games he's got. He's got 2 tougher games, like we've said, Liverpool and Arsenal, but the home games are absolutely beautiful. So I think Nacho's already mentioned them. But when we look at them again, he's got Villa at home, West Ham at home, Sunderland at home, Everton at home. I don't think you can get much better in the next 6, to be honest. It's just a shame that the 2 away games are Liverpool and Arsenal, but they're bad enough that I wouldn't be scared to bench him if another better option comes up. So I don't think that's too bad from him. I think Anderson would be nice to free up a bit of funds in case I did want to try and get to Thiago in a couple of weeks, which I feel like would be the optimal time to get him, considering he's got some tougher fixtures in the next 2. But yeah, I don't think the team is too bad. Once I do Sada Minter, I've got Xhaka and Mukiele. Liverpool away, they're my only cover if anybody misses a game. But apart from that, I think it's all right. I don't think I'm tempted to go Bruno captain. I think I'll probably still be on Haaland. But doing this stream, I am starting to get a little bit tempted to do it. But we'll see. I'm going to have a sleep on it and see how I feel tomorrow. But I've gone against it once and it worked okay. And obviously I went with triple captain Haaland last week. I just don't want to be sat there with recency bias hating Haaland and go for Bruno this week and Haaland smashes it, because that really would be painful. But yeah, apart from that, I feel okay about my team. Nacho, talk us through yours. Obviously coming back after a free hit, 2 free transfers, 1.9 million in the bank. What are you thinking of doing?
Well, this is the punishment for doing well, because look at this bloody team. It is disgusting. It's awful. I'll just read it through for those that are listening. So we got 2 free transfers, 1.9 million in the bank, but we got rare between the sticks, perfectly fine. Got some Arsenal investment. We got a back 3 of Richards, Virgil van Dijk and Anderson at home against Man City. Really, we're just hoping for defensive contributions for Anderson there. Midfield 4 of Ndai, Enzo, Fernandez and Semenyo. For those wondering about Chelsea, from a Chelsea fan perspective, Caicedo's out, obviously suspended, and Maresca's come out and said basically Reece James can't really play this fixture and also play game week 15. So I would probably guess it's going to be Andre Santos and then probably Enzo alongside him. He's just going to get run out once again. And we'll probably see Cole Palmer playing the 10 with Estevan on one wing. So quite an exciting Chelsea team I'm anticipating. Not enough for me to sell Enzo though. And then front 3 of Thiago, Haaland and Mateta. I've got Senesi and I've got Sarr. And really it all comes down to how much do I want Saka? Because me bringing in Saka does not improve my team at all. It would be Sarr to Saka, and I would need to sell a cash cow, which probably would be someone like a Mateta. And that doesn't improve my team at all. So my plan right now is to probably do Senesi to Timber if we get a sniff that Timber is going to continue to start, and then probably get rid of Ismail Sarr. And I've been tempted by Minter myself. I do like him as a pick. And then get through game week 15 with no Saka against Villa away, and then bring him in game week 16 when we get our 5 free transfers, and just pray Saka doesn't destroy me this week.
Do you worry at all about Timber in terms of the midweek game? Do you think because he played weekend, do you think he plays 3 games in 7 days?
Could I just check? Ben White was on the bench, wasn't he? He's fit and available. Is
Do
that
you know
right?
what? I'm not actually sure myself.
I'm just checking right now. Give me 2 seconds. So Ben White is on the bench, but obviously his minutes have been really sporadic. But I actually think after watching that game, they missed someone like Ben White, just overlapping Saka and opening up the play a little bit. And I would not be surprised at all if Arteta does explore a little bit with Ben White in that right back role in certain games. So yeah, I do think Timber is at risk of rotation. I definitely need to check online to see if Timber is at risk, because it probably isn't worth the transfer this week if that is the case. But alternatively, do I like a differential like a Calaflori? I have no idea if he starts either.
Yeah, and Lewis Skelly came on as well, didn't he? Was it a half-time for Calafiori? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Raya is now obviously the safest pick because Saliba, Gabriel's obviously out. Saliba is having scans as well. So, yeah, it's always tough midweek, isn't it? And I do feel like Timber's maybe a little bit risky for midweek, but it could be absolutely fine. But it would always be there in the back of my head. I mean, Hibbo, you've got 0.5 in the bank, 1 free transfer. You've got Sarr, you've got Senesi. Talk us through what you're thinking of doing.
So what I've done here is I've kept these boys in the team because my team's that bad. But anyway, I've got 0.5 million in the bank and 1 free transfer. So back to front, I think for the podcast people, Reyes in goal, obviously Virgil at home to Sunderland. Senesi is going to miss out because he's suspended. And then Anderson's at home to Man City. Not a great fixture. Sar's obviously going to miss. Then we have Semenyo at home, the Everton, Bruno, Enzo at Leeds, Saka with Brentford, Haaland with Fulham, and Matera with Burnley. I think attacking wise, and I think without injuries, I would have felt in good shape. Do you know, I think if Senesi hadn't missed out with suspension and Sarr hadn't missed out, I would have probably have gone one defensive change and taken Anderson out and put him to the bench. But now you've got problems. So I think what I'm inclined to do here is promote Roden from the bench and play him instead of Senesi. I'm not taking a hit. I'll change Sarr. So Sarr I'll change either to Anderson or Monte, one of the two. I think the conversation here has been good tonight. But I think that attack, so my midfield 5, my front 2, Virgil and Raya, I think it might be enough to get me over the line. And the last thing I'm going to potentially do is punt and captaincy. So here I've got the boss team captain on Haaland because it's how I felt whenever I submitted the team to Yelena. But Fernandes is there. Saka's there. So it's a bit of a three-way fight between now and the deadline. But if you don't want to be convinced, stay away from your phone at deadline tomorrow, Andy, because I'm going to be sending you a few WhatsApps about I might take a risk here. I might, might go with Bruno, I might go with Saka. But no, it kind of feels to me like a week where, because two of my defenders aren't great, I feel like maybe I have to take a bit of risk. I maybe have to take a bit of risk to kind of double down and get myself out of a bit of a hole. But attacking wise, attacks like Baywatch, defense is like Crime Watch.
I love the idea of, do you know what? My team's feeling a bit risky. So do you know what I need to do? I need to add more risk. I need to add more risk. That's what you need to do.
Works sometimes.
Well, it does, yeah. Right, a bit of a Q&A now. So chuck us in your questions and we will answer as many as possible. We've got almost 500 people in the chat. So chuck us your questions in and we'll try and answer as many as possible in the last couple of minutes. Baz United, Nacho, this one's for you, saying, will Palmer definitely start?
I think he will. It sounded like he was available for the Arsenal game. The only reason he didn't come on is why would you chuck on a guy with 10 men like Palmer, who's such a luxury player? So I fully expect him to get some decent enough game time against Leeds, and it's kind of the perfect game to bring him back in.
Yeah. Attaboy says, is Senesi a sell with his fixtures coming up or a keep because he's a C-bit god, Hibbo?
I think with Senesi, like if we're going to look at his next fixtures, like he's obviously missing Everton and he's got Chelsea, Man United, and then Burnley, Brentford, Chelsea, Arsenal. I think you could argue that he's potentially a sale.
Yeah. Flapjack, Andy, are you okay, mate?
Go on.
Thank you for asking me, Flappy. Yeah,
Go
I'm
on,
doing
Flaps.
okay. I'm doing okay. This one's for you again, Hibbo, because I wanted to ask you this one specifically because it could be for your team. You've obviously got money in the bank that you could do Sarr to Rice. Have you got any temptation to do that?
No.
Brilliant. Damn. Bob Paddock says, when do we get 5 free transfers, Nacho?
Sorry, I didn't think you'd say the surname like that. Sorry, what was it again?
When do we get the 5 free transfers?
So ahead of game week 16 deadline, so you've got 2 more game weeks to try and use up all your transfers to maximise the top up of 5 free transfers, basically.
Yeah, lovely. We've got one from Franzenberg saying, who are the best Pope replacements, Hibbo?
Oh,
People with Pope and Dubravka, they're in a tough spot at the moment, I'd say.
the best Pope replacements. It depends where you want to go in terms of your money. Like, I obviously like Raya as an Arsenal pick, and I think we're looking at him right now and we're talking about him being the most secure pick defensively. So if you aren't there, it's really boring, but you could go there. I think really cheap for Bugan, maybe. Some of the home fixtures are very good for Brighton.
Imagine being asked which keeper to go for and you say Raya. Oh, how daring of you. Right, let's go.
I'm boring.
Anderson. Right. Johnny says, with rotation in mind, is having 2 coverage on the bench worth a hit, Nacho?
Is having 2 coverage on the bench?
Yeah, so having at least 2 players on the bench to come in if you need it. Is it worth taking a hit to make sure you've got some bench coverage over the Christmas period?
I wouldn't take a hit for it, really. Obviously, if you've got like absolutely rogue players in your 11 and it's chaos, then yeah, but otherwise, no, I don't think a point sit's worth it in the best of times, let alone just a bench cover.
Yeah. Terry says, is it worth bringing in Salah as a 2-week punt, Hibbo? I know what you're going to say.
Here, I'm the biggest Salah fanboy of all time, but I can't be done now.
You can't be a fanboy of every player.
He's my boy. Do you know the way these content creators come out? You know the way these content creators come out and say he's my boy. Like I'm going to claim Salah as if I invented him. So Salah, I've known him since he played for who was it? Cairo FC.
I don't even know. He's googling.
Cairo FC. My God. Oh right. John Ross says. Jonathan Ross in the chat says, "How do you guys see the Forest defence at Nacho?"
Usually my eyes, don't I?
I knew that was you.
Classic.
Such a dad. How do you see it?
Well, Forest fixtures coming up. Like we have to remember, they have got Europa League as well. Murillo is a touch and go for this week. I don't think there's enough right now to be investing in them myself.
Yeah. Lovely stuff. Thank you so much for all the people that chucked a question in. I tried to do as many as possible in the last couple of minutes, but thank you so much. Thank you so much as well for the just under 500 people that were watching live. Thank you so much for all the people that listen on the pod afterwards and all the people that watch the stream after as well. We love all of you, so thank you so much. Remember, it is a deadline tomorrow. I think it's 6 o'clock, so the first game's at 7:30. So make sure you know, but don't tell your friends and loved ones, because then you're more likely to get a green arrow, aren't you? Especially with Sarr and Senesi out as well. Nacho, thank you so much for joining us, my man. It's so good to be streaming with somebody that's doing so well this season.
Yeah, no, always a pleasure. And I can see you meant that, so thank you so much. I can see in your eyes problem. It told me you meant that.
No problem. So, I'm smiling with my mouth.
But I'm just going to say, I just want to put it out there, it's a red arrow this week. Oh. You just feel it in your loins. I just feel it this game week.
Your groin?
It's right in the groin.
How do you know what a red arrow feels like? How do you know?
Right now.
Exactly.
I'm
Disgusting.
Right now, but
Disgusting.
I'm just putting it out there.
That's like some billionaire saying, "Oh, I feel like I'm going to have a bad week financially this week." Sod off. Hibbo, thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's really nice to just stream with you.
What? Excuse me. Treat me with the same reverence as how you treated Nacho there. No, a great pod. Obviously, I don't want to dwell on free hit 13. It absolutely smashed it out of the park, and we got massive green arrows and stuff like that. But I agree with Nacho. I think midweek's going to be tough. But we've got 2 game weeks. They're starting to come thick and fast, and this is a time when engaged managers, I think, kind of double down and really start to show their worth. So let's do it.
It is, exactly. So the next time we see you, there would have been 2 game weeks having been played, and we will be ready for game week 16 to talk through with you, which is, of course, well, we're all going to have 5 free transfers to play with. So thank you so much for joining us this week. We hope to see you again next week. It will be me and Nacho in a duo pod for the rest of the season. Thank you so much. We'll see you all again. Bye-bye.
Bye.